Welcome to the Fierce and Fit Mentor Podcast. I'm your host, Clarice Yao, a holistic health coach dedicated to helping women over 40 achieve their fittest, fiercest selves. Each week, we'll dive deep into the unique challenges of menopause, including belly fat, weight gain, muscle building, hormonal imbalances, and more. These episodes are recorded live from my free Facebook group, Fierce Women Sculpting Powerful Bodies and Champion Mindsets. Be sure to check the link in the show notes to join our incredible community and access free content, challenges, and resources designed just for you. This is our live 222 in the lifespan of me doing these, but I think this is now our third live on Instagram. So this live is going to be body recomposition after 40. This is part of my community, which is the Fierce Women community, Sculpting Powerful Bodies and Champion Mindsets. Our Facebook community has had some glitches, so is not as active anymore, but like I mentioned, I am building something brand new. So if you do want to be in the loop of this announcement coming in the next few weeks, make sure you put announcement below, because this new community will have, more free challenges, more free resources. And so put announcement below if you don't want to miss this exciting announcement coming down the line. Okay. So on this live, we are going to cover why muscle is your metabolic gold after 40. How to eat for fat loss and muscle retention without starving. So this is super, super important. It's like the secret combo. How do you lose fat, but also build muscle at the same time? Okay. And then the science of anabolic resistance. So we're going to talk about why menopausal women struggle to build muscle and how to overcome it. As well, why cardio alone won't shape your body and the types of training you need to do to gain, muscle, to have body recomposition. Okay. And also how protein, collagen, and recovery supplementation is going to help you. Okay. So we're going to cover all of these things on this live today. So just a quick, if you guys don't mind, if you do, you don't have to share, but put below your ages, because I'd like other people who are going to watch this live to know the demographic of whom am I talking to, and to not feel alone, right? To know okay, other women are struggling too. Other women my age can do this too. Okay, I'm going to dive into sort of the topic now. We're going to talk first about body recomposition and just some baseline things, even though most of you probably do know. But we're going to start first with this. So, what is body recomposition? Is simultaneously losing fat while gaining and retaining lean muscle. Okay. So body recomposition is not just about losing weight. Okay. Losing weight really means not a whole lot in terms of a menopausal woman. Okay. Not saying that losing weight is not important, but losing weight often, if it's done incorrectly, relates a lot to muscle loss, which we're going to talk about on this live, rapid muscle loss. So being really careful about not over focusing on weight and focusing on body recomposition. So you want to lose fat and gain muscle at the same time. So why is it harder after 40 to, body recomposite, to have this whole process happen, lose fat, gain muscle? So there's three reasons, and we're going to break down a couple of them. The first reason is sarcopenia, which is the natural loss of muscle that you have as you age. You will lose 3 to 5% of muscle mass per decade after 30. So if you do nothing, your muscle will rapidly drop off. And so really focusing on muscle growth is important. So the term is sarcopenia. The second reason is anabolic resistance. Okay. We're going to dive deeper into this in a second here. So the anabolic resistance is aging muscle is less responsive to protein and training stimulus. And there's a few things we're going to go into about anabolic resistance, but your anabolic resistance starts to increase rapidly as you age. So this is a big problem for why women, even though they keep working out or, they think they're doing the right things, they're really not seeing a whole lot of improvements in their muscle or their body or their, their tone, all of that. And anabolic resistance, we're going to dive deeper into this. Okay. So, but I'll tell you the third reason. So sarcopenia, number one. Second is anabolic resistance. And third is, of course, hormonal shifts. That's why I emphasize hormones so much. Because of your hormone drop, estrogen declining, your abdominal fat will increase and your fat mass starts to decrease faster because estrogen kind of protects and maintains muscle. If you didn't know, estrogen, that hormone, maintains muscle really well for you. Without it, you cannot maintain muscle as properly unless you learn how to spike other hormones, which is part of my live later, okay? Because now you cannot rely as much on estrogen. And as well, with the hormone shifts, your appetite changes, your leptin tends to go down and your ghrelin goes up. So it means that your hunger signals tend to get more cravings, tend to be hungrier, and you tend not to really know when you're full. And so it's kind of like your hormone signals are all imbalanced, okay? So those are the three reasons why it's harder after 40. So sarcopenia, anabolic resistance, and hormonal shifts. And so let's talk about, why is there anabolic resistance that is happening? And the better you understand this, the better it will make sense on, what you can do to build more muscle, lose fat, okay? So with anabolic resistance, one of the things that happens is that you have fewer satellite cells responding, okay? So satellite cells are those satellite cells that's like they satellite around kind of the muscles, and they have a nuclei in them. And when you have the right signals, they're like stem cells. So they will contribute the nuclei to the muscles to grow new muscles, okay? And so when you have anabolic resistance, your satellite cells, the number of satellite cells decreases, but the remaining ones are also less active. They're not as active, so they cannot contribute the nuclei as fast to the muscles anymore. So you have to really consider the way you train. You can't train exactly the same way as you did in 20s or 25 or 30s because your repair and growth process of your muscle is very different and everything kicks in slower, right? So we have to know how you can maybe say hack the system, because you have to learn how to work with your body now. It doesn't just, I go work out, I build muscle, or like, okay, I drink the protein shake, I build muscle. Like we see a lot of young 20, 30s can build really fast, but as you age, it's not going to be so simple. And so that's the first thing, is understanding you have fewer satellite cell activity. The second thing is you have weaker mTOR pathway activation. So mTOR, a mechanistic target of rapamycin. mTOR is talked about a lot actually in kind of the muscle building world. It is the molecular switch that switches on to tell your body to build muscle now, okay? When you are aging, this mTOR pathways becomes less sensitive to signals, particularly leucine. Leucine, this amino acid, it doesn't pick up leucine as well. So what does this mean for you? You need to produce greater signals. So greater signals. So like, for example, more protein, higher levels of protein, because your body cannot respond as well to these protein molecules, right? Like leucine. And as well, bigger mechanical tension in your workouts to get the same signal growth, okay? So of course, I'm going to go into this a little bit more later in terms of lifting, but it's like, as you age, you do need to make sure you are giving a really good signal, heavier lifts, not always the heaviest, just heavier lifts, bigger mechanical tensions, more protein. You're trying to do more to activate that signal, which is the mTOR pathway. Okay. So with the weaker mTOR pathway, that's what you have to start to think is like the pathway that builds muscle, or the molecular switch, is not strong anymore. So I need to emphasize more protein, more higher mechanical tension signaling in my workouts. Okay. And the third reason why your anabolic resistance is higher as you age is impaired blood flow to your muscle. As you age, you have reduced capillarization, so less capillaries in your muscles. It's just they start to decline, right? So when you have less capillaries, you have less amino acid delivered to your muscles. So your muscles are not able to recover as fast, the speed and magnitude of protein synthesis. Why there's so many of these shifts? Of course, it's slightly less in the 40s, more in 50s, and just rapidly increasing after 60s. So with the impaired blood flow, again, you need to emphasize as much as you can, like how do I, well, one, make those capillaries kind of grow more, I have better amino acid delivery, right? So things I'm speaking about, you can think of it from the other side. What do I need to do from this, right? Because if you're not good, for example, with your nutrition, which again, I will talk about later, if your capillaries already have reduced capacity to deliver nutrients and you eat poorly, this is going to make it incredibly difficult for you to build muscle. So this is why like everything matters as you age, because like everything starts to shut down, capillaries less signaling response, uptake of leucine is less, even your cellular membranes start not uptaking as well in a lot of areas. So it's like understanding that, right? So let's talk a little bit about the fourth reason of anabolic resistance. Okay, anabolic resistance also occurs because of the hormones. So you're going to have lower estrogen, lower testosterone, and lower growth hormone signals, which all are the background for anabolic signals to be stronger. Okay, so as these signals drop off, your estrogen drops off, it will really affect like collagen and the structure in muscles. So it makes muscle building harder, but also like the fibers like less elastic and slower to repair, right? That's why there is a big thing on collagen and taking collagen, because the drop in estrogen really affects collagen, right? So that's another reason for anabolic resistance. And the fifth one for anabolic resistance, the fifth reason is chronic low-grade inflammation, okay? And if you follow me, you know I am so passionate about this part, right? Aging often comes with inflammaging, okay? Inflammaging, okay? If you've never heard of that, that is a new term for you. It is saying that as you age, your inflammatory cytokines start to increase in the blood. And this will greatly interfere with your protein synthesis and increase breakdown, making it harder for you to like really tip the balance towards muscle growth, right? If you don't control inflammation, your body naturally rises in inflammation because it cannot get rid of inflammation markers and cytokines as effectively anymore. So if you're not careful about the types of food you eat, what's going into your food, a lot of these supplements these days, you know, there are good ones, there are really bad ones too. And yet they're health products or health food products or protein powders or this supplement to help you grow this and that and all of this type of stuff. And there are good ones too. I'm not saying all. However, the problem is when people don't know what to look for, they think they're inputting really healthy supplements for their body, but yet there is actual like inflammatory markers, you know, in the background, right? Sometimes it's not direct inflammation. I think I said this on a live before. Sometimes it's not that it enters your body and right away inflames your body. It's what it does in the process. There's a number of things, for example, sugar, alcohols can alter your microbiome. When you alter your microbiome, what happens? Your altered microbiome will create a reduced absorption for food, for things entering your system. You're not able to absorb as much nutrition. So one, you have reduced nutrient uptake. And then, you know, with the, you know, dysbiosis or gut imbalance, this will cause stress. This could cause stress to the digestive system, which then leads to inflammation. So this is what I want you to understand, is that it's not that every ingredient is like, bam, that's an inflammation, but I will categorize it. Let's talk a little bit about inflammation a little bit more. So inflammation or inflammation, this happens because there's three things that your body cannot do as it ages. One, it cannot clear damaged cells as much. The senescent cells cannot clear it out as much. So garbage starts to build up. Your immune system starts to shut off a little bit or downgrade. I mean, you don't want it to completely shut off, or you will have some massive inflammation issues in your body, but it starts to downgrade your immune system. And repairing oxidative stress, like in terms of like if you had oxidation, I always use the apple example. If you had an apple sit outside, it will turn brown eventually, right? That is oxidation, right? So your body goes through oxidative stress all the time, to be honest. Maybe too long out in the sun, maybe not enough sun, maybe around some chemicals, maybe you drank something, maybe, you're always around things, but your body has an ability when you're young to get rid of oxidative stress, but it cannot get rid of oxidative stress as you age. So these damaged and abnormal cells linger, and then they start to release inflammatory molecules, which further disrupt healthy tissue and promote disease. I want you to hear this carefully, okay? So one of the main reasons that your body slows down in its metabolism, and I'll give you a case study or research study in a bit, is not because the metabolism slows down, but is because of the loss of muscle, right? So if you lose muscle and your metabolism starts to slow down, you don't want to lose muscle, right? You want to prevent this loss of muscle as much as possible. So the problem I just indicated about inflammation is inflammation, you can imagine like a net, right? A net that prevents your muscle from growing. If you do not deal with inflammation, you are going to have difficulty building muscle. If you don't deal with inflammation, or you just eat anything, or you think you eat healthy, which I call the I eat healthy syndrome, which is okay. I just want you to know, I understand sometimes we just don't know what we don't know, right? But it is something that I see often. Oh, I eat healthy. Okay. And then I look in their logs and it's not that, right? So coming back to this is, if inflammation is the net that prevents more muscle growth, then one of your first steps is to deal with lowering inflammation in your body as much as possible, lowering the inflammation that's happening, right? So if you want to learn more about inflammation, I want you to put inflammation below. This is one of the most important things I think foundationally you need to address, one of the first steps you need to address if your body is not responding. So let's talk about like a case study. So this is kind of related to what I said earlier about metabolism and muscle, but just to talk about it. So it's called the Herman Poncer science study in 2021. There was a large scale study of 6,400 people, kind of between ages 8 to 95. They were studying kind of like how much energy is expended in the person's body in this 8 years old, 9, 10, 15, 15, 20, 25. Like they were studying how much energy expenditure do these people use in a day, which is the mark of your metabolism, right? They found from age 20 to 60 that the metabolism didn't actually change that much. And this is actually shocking for a lot of people, because people think, okay, but my metabolism drops. My metabolism is slow. My metabolism slows down as I age, right? But in the study, they actually found that per unit of the body, it produced the same amount of energy. So it was pretty much, from 20 to 60 was pretty much similar. But after 60, the decline happened faster after 60 because of the tissue function changes, lower organ metabolic rates and all of that, right? So yes, there's a big group of you in the 60s and post 60s. It's true. you are dealing with the biggest changes. If you're 40, 50s, it's good you're proactive. Like, work at it now before you get to 60, okay? But why is this really, really important? This is important because between 20 to 60, if the metabolism stays relatively stable, then what happens? Why is it that you're 40 or 50s, like some of my 50-year-old ladies, they're like, but I'm gaining weight. I'm gaining my belly fat. Anybody gaining belly fat here? Number one top topic of menopausal, perimenopausal, and postmenopausal women. Yeah? From 20 to 60, if your metabolism doesn't change much, then what changes? I thought this was a really interesting study because I think you would really enjoy it. So, actually, your metabolism doesn't change, but what changes is the speed of muscle loss. That's why this is on my Body Recomposition Live. Okay? So, your metabolism doesn't just magically drop off and suddenly it's because I'm aging, my metabolism is slower. It's actually because your muscle mass starts to decrease faster and faster as you age, right? It's like a what do you call it? A roller coaster, or what is the other joke? It's like a toilet paper. As you get to the end, it goes faster and faster, right? That's basically it, is that your muscles will speed up in losing muscle unless you're super intentional about what I'm going to talk about on this live, about building muscle and not having a sedentary lifestyle, right? So we can't just blame metabolism. We have to blame more so the loss of muscle. But behind that is, why are you losing muscle, right? And that's kind of part of our life, is like body recomposition. I want to build more muscle, but I want to lose fat, but I want to build more muscle, right? So we're going to talk about this. When you lose muscle, what you want to think about this is that your engine output is like, the way it can output is still the same, but it's just that your engine went from this big to this big because you lost muscle. So we want to keep the engine big. Okay. So remember this analogy. You want to keep the engine big. You don't want to decrease the engine. The output's the same. That's why the metabolic rate is similar from 20 to 60, but is the size of the engine. And we want to create more size in the engine, which is muscles. Okay. Let's actually dive now deeper into the muscle topic. Okay. So your muscle is your metabolic and hormonal powerhouse. Okay. So at rest, your muscles burn way more calories, and you know this. I said this fun fact a long time ago, but like 1 pound of fat only burns like 2 calories, whereas 1 pound of muscle burns like 25 calories. So you can understand how much more effective it is to have more muscle in place, right? So muscle will affect your metabolism, so your metabolic role. It will also affect your hormonal role, okay? Muscles will stimulate GH, which is growth hormone, and insulin-like growth factor. We're going to dive deeper into these hormones soon here, but these hormones will help you have better fat mobilization, faster recovery, and tissue repair. So you want these hormones in place: growth hormone and insulin-like growth factor, IGF-1. Okay. And also, when you build more muscle, you will improve leptin sensitivity and have better appetite control. Do you remember I told you, because of the hormone drop, your leptin will typically decrease, and then you'll have poor appetite signals. Ghrelin will increase, cravings will increase, leptin will decrease. So you want more muscle, which creates a better hunger signals or hunger balance signals between leptin and ghrelin. Okay. And we'll dive more into GH and IGF-1 in a little bit here, but just talking about like the role of muscles. So it has a metabolic role, as a hormonal role, really helps you with the positive hormones, and it really counteracts menopause symptoms, right? So when you lose estrogen, you have less satellite cell activity. Like I said, you don't have as much strength as before, right? So you want to counteract this loss with trying to build more muscle, so you have more of the other muscles in place to counteract your menopausal symptoms, right? So basically, you want to think of this: the more muscle you have, the more you protect yourself protect your metabolism, protect yourself from aging faster, right? The elixir of aging is, I believe, in your muscles. Okay. So if you are listening, like I said, like, I'm curious, everybody on here is strength training, weight training, everybody is doing some resistance training on here. So put it below, are you strength training or resistance training on here? Okay. Because this is going to be your protector. Okay. IGF-1 and growth hormone is going to be really important, but I want to talk about it under my MTP protocol, which is coming up. Okay. So I will jump back to this hormone situation. Okay. So we just talked about muscle being why it's super important. Secondly, we're going to talk about like the nutrition involved with the muscle building, right? We want to lose fat and build muscle together. Okay, so let's talk about nutrition, okay? So we want to be able to fuel muscle and decrease fat at the same time. And I'm going to start with the most basic thing I will say, which is macros. And macronutrients is your key to body recomposition. Now, there's something I talk about called the 4 pillars with people who join my program. One of them, I say quality of food and then quantity of food, which I will reference in a bit here. But quality of food has to do with decreasing inflammation, which I spoke about earlier, avoiding inflammatory markers, making sure you know how to eat throughout the day, like the qualitative part of it, right? But I always say there's a second part, which is the quantity of food, which is the amount you're going to eat. So to have a really, really good dialed in physique, you need to have your numbers and understand how these macros combine. I would say, I sometimes tell the people in my consults to write macros or quantity of food equals body recomposition. And because I want somebody to associate body recomposition with the need to have more dialed in macros. Okay. Why do I say it's the key for body recomposition? And why is it not just in quality of food? It's affected in quality of food from inflammation. Like if you don't deal with inflammation, you are going to have trouble building muscle. But if you want to dial your physique, it really is the numbers. You will get your leanest physique from dialing in those macros, the protein amounts, the carb amounts, the fat amounts. In fact, close to competition, which is our prep week, right? Our prep of the last month, the last weeks. What happens, Rosalinda? What happens, Oshone? We have to dial those numbers extremely close, and every little thing up, down, downs, like dials, like a protein dial, a carb dial, a fat dial. Those are extremely important for creating a more precise sculpted physique, okay? So this is something I want you to remember, why macros are super important. So let's talk a little bit about that. So the first thing is protein, is a top priority. Like I said, you need way more protein as you age because you do not uptake and absorb that protein well. And there is a range, which I spoke about a couple weeks ago. A lot of different associations say different things, but it ranges from 1.2 to 2.2, sometimes even 2.3, depending on how active, how heavy you lift, grams per kilogram of body weight. But that's a really big range. And knowing what you need is going to come down to, again, sort of personalization, right? And how heavy you lift as well, and how much you do. For example, I'm just going to use Kimiko. Kimiko, she does a lot, okay? She dances tango, she performs, she lifts a lot and does a whole bunch of stuff. And honestly, as long as she's trained and as much as she's listened to my live the last 4 years, because Kimiko has been following me for 4 years, her protein was extremely low, correct, Kimiko? I was looking at, I'm like, you're not even close. And she's telling me, I have trouble really hitting these protein values because she's doing so much that she needs to get that into her system, right? So that is something that she's really learning about her body and why you need more as you're aging. Also, in terms of protein, it matters how you spread it out throughout the day, how much is in per meal. You typically cannot have more than 30 grams of protein in your absorption rate. So you want to be careful how much you stack together, because I know sometimes women skip meals, don't eat all day, then they eat at dinner and they eat this massive meal, and it's like not great, right? For your body, for your insulin, for your protein uptake, all of that. And so you want to make sure you know how to spread this protein properly, and how you spread it. I do have a certain methodology, but it does change depending on your level of advancement. There's baseline. I teach most of my beginning and transformation clients, and then there's higher levels of timing and splits of the nutrition. So you're listening and you're wanting to understand a little bit more about like timing and how the splits work maybe at a higher level. You can put timing below. That is more for, I would say, if you don't even know what macros are, you're not doing macros, you don't need to put timing so much. What you probably need to put is macros if you want to learn macros. But if you know macros, but you're still not growing muscle, you're still not fully getting the results, then I would say maybe more specific timing. Where are the locations of the protein distributed? So you can put that below, okay? So protein's top priority. Secondly is carbs. So carbs, okay, is kind of the misunderstood but essential macro. So why do I say it's misunderstood? Because as I mentioned last week and in one of my reels, is people kind of maybe villainize carbs, and they're scared of carbs. They don't want to eat carbs because we think that carbs are going to make us gain weight, right? You need carbs, and when you don't have carbs, you will impact your muscle building potential. Like I said earlier, who are going to be the workers to build the bricks of the house, right? You will affect your T4 to T3 conversion as well. You need carbs, particularly complex carbs, starchier carbs with fiber, for more glucose stability. So if you have poor insulin response, or you have pre-diabetic conditions, higher A1C levels. And so let's talk about blood sugar stability, right? So you need to pair complex carbs with fiber for blood sugar stability, for hormones as well. The hormones of estrogen really connect with fiber in your gut system and proper estrogen recycling. So you need carbs. This is what I'm coming back down to, is being very intentional about having carbs, but knowing what type of carbs, because yes, different types of carbs have different responses. And even in the class of carbs, even if you say, okay, in the class of starch carbs, there are better starch carb and less good starch carbs in there. In the class of simple sugars and things, there's better simple sugars and less good simple sugars. There's, based on a lot around the glycemic index, the influence in your body, but not just glycemic index. Glycemic index is just the speed of how fast the sugar enters your system, but it's also like what other hormones does it produce when you eat those carbs, right? Anybody on here a little bit afraid of carbs or eating carbs or starch carb, where you feel like, if I eat carbs, I'm just going to gain weight. If I eat carbs, I feel like my belly fat increases. Anybody scared of carbs, put it below. So the last macro that you want to pay attention to is fats. The way I want you to think about fats, it's your hormone allies. Okay, they support estrogen, progesterone, and satiety, which means it supports ghrelin and leptin, right? It supports your hormones. So you want to have lots of healthy fats in your system. And the best analogy I give in a lot of my lives is you have the brick, the protein, you need the workers to build the house. But if you have no electricity or heating or cooling system in your home, that's the fats. It's going to be kind of sucky living there. I mean, it'd be pretty sucky to live here with no AC in Los Cabos. I mean, there is, but I mean, I enjoy my AC, If you don't have your healthy fats, your lights, your electricity, the things that make the house better, more livable, is not there. So you have to be really cautious also about eating healthy fats, right? So again, like avocados, fish, things like that can give you good healthy fats is good, okay? So I want you to think about it this way. Every meal you eat is a hormone signal, and you want to create the right combination that gives you the right signal to have fat burning and muscle preserving. So if you are listening to this, I mentioned earlier, like about pillars and what I talk about. Quality of food is really important. Quantity of food is really important, and timing of food is really important, right? Okay, so that was macronutrients on building muscle, losing fat, and having the precise numbers to dial in your macros, emphasizing higher protein, not skipping out your carbs, not being afraid of starch carbs, ensuring there's carbs, ensuring there's fiber, super important, and ensuring there's healthy fat. So again, if you want more nuance on how this all works together, like I said, put macros below. So let's dive into the third thing, which is training protocols. Okay. So this is where I talk a lot about MTP, menopausal training protocol. Okay. And people often tell me, oh, but I'm not menopause yet, or I'm post-menopause, or I'm perimenopause. So it's just, I had to make the name short, okay? Technically, it should be perimenopause, menopause, and postmenopause training protocol. MTP is just a little bit easier. So if you're in your 40s, even your 30s, actually, because 30s when it starts to drop, right? In short, what is MTP? Why did I term this? Why is this like a unique approach that I look at training? And is the type of training where it's beyond just about building muscle. It is building muscle, but it has hormonal considerations. Is looking at how can we optimize the hormones in your menopausal body, particularly growth hormone and insulin growth factor, which I had mentioned earlier, right? So we want to increase these hormone signals as much as possible. So how do we do this? What are some of the things behind this? Okay. So yes, in building more muscle, you're going to need to have the right focus. One, you need to have for sure progressive overload. Yes, you can increase weights, reps, sets, but this is not the only way, and that I really encourage you to focus on technique. Your technique, most of the time when clients first come to me, their deadlift form is off. Most of the time when people come to me, their squat form is sort of off. And what I will say is most people know how to squat, sort of, but they don't know how to optimize it. There's a difference between optimizing the best squat position versus just doing it. You know, I see tons of boot camp style squats and they aren't the best for you, right? There is better, more effective type of squatting technique. So I want everybody listening to think more about progressive overload, more than just weights, reps, and sets, and more about technical execution. And if you are not sure about the technique, or you feel like, you know, I want to understand that better, you could put technique. I mean, I did release just the 2 videos, which was a few weeks back, of the row and the chest press. And if you want to test your technique knowledge, we can send that to you. It was the chest. I did 4 variations, and I think 4 variations, I think, and then the row one, and ask which one is the most effective at building muscle. So if you want to try that, you could put technique, or put just put technique. We'll know what you mean. The next thing I'm going to talk about is actually hypertrophy training versus strength training. Okay. So this is extremely important because I think a lot of people don't fully maybe understand this. Okay. You actually need, as a menopausal woman, both hypertrophy training and strength training. What is the difference? You need both. So number one, hypertrophy training is muscle shape and volume. So the size and the shape and definition. Okay. It's to, when you work out in this way, you build more like density of the muscle fibers. So the rep ranges are usually higher in this range, usually 8 to 15, sometimes even more. Now, it's not on this live, but there is a few research papers that indicate sometimes menopausal women have to even lift even higher rep ranges. But I'm not going to get into that today, because if you don't even train regularly, or you don't regularly like have proper technique, let's not talk about more advanced levels, right? But the rep ranges are important. and the kind of slightly higher rep ranges do create mechanical tension and fatigue. Muscle fatigue, muscular fatigue is the key to building muscle and sculpting muscle. So you need to focus on a little bit more reps. Again, where those rep ranges are is going to be different for different people, because your experience, like how good your lactic acid threshold is. If I've been training a long time, my lactic acid threshold is way higher than someone else. It takes a lot more to fatigue my muscle out, right? So I'm not going to say exactly the number of reps, but it's just to understand the philosophy is that you need higher reps to get to that fatigue zone. And that fatigue zone is what will actually help you with defining the muscle and signal kind of that mTOR pathway. Okay. So what is the benefit of training hypertrophy training, which I also call sort of the bodybuilding approach? Okay. But the more technical term is hypertrophy training. It builds more visible curves. So if you're sitting here listening to me, you're like, I have been training for a long time. I still don't see the shape of my body. If you're sitting here and you're like, I go to the gym all the time, I still don't see results. Okay. There's two things. Well, there's more than two things, but I'm just simplifying it. Number one, you have too much fat on your body and we can't see it. I'm just being honest. So if you have too much fat on your body, we need to control your nutrition. You need guidance on that, right? To figure out it's not just eating less, okay? Don't think I just have to eat less. Think macronutrients, okay? We need to decrease fat in your body. That could be one reason. Second reason is you're not training properly. If you're not training properly, you can go to the gym all you want. I've seen so many people go to gym after years and years and years and years. There's no shape in their body. It just looks like, yeah, just normal. But they're fit. You can tell when they're doing the workload, when they're doing stuff, it's there, but it's not sculpted. So what I'm trying to say here is sculpting takes a very specific type of training methodology and technique, okay? And when you sculpt and train in hypertrophy, you will also create actually better joint stability. But if you have some joint issue, learning to build specifically muscle around the joint is going to really help you. So if you're listening and you, like I say, if you don't feel like you're sculpting, and you want more help on that, put sculpting below, okay? Put sculpting, because this is like a common concern for a lot of women that come to me. They tell me they go to the gym all the time, they're lifting, they know they're stronger, but they're not seeing in the mirror the results of what they want. They're not seeing the body that they want. So that takes a specific type of training. Now, let's talk a little bit about strength training, because they're not the same, okay? Okay, strength training, not the same as hypertrophy training. In strength training, you're really trying to recruit more muscle fiber at once, higher amount of fiber recruitment versus density, but more recruitment in the motor unit, okay? When you do this, what you're trying to do is you're trying to increase the total lift, right? Like how much you can lift at once, how much neuromuscular power is there, right? When you're increasing strength, greater motor unit recruitment. It's very important, but it doesn't actually build shape. It just builds strength. But this is important. So this is where I want people to understand, okay? Because I like powerlifting. So strength training is different. It's lower reps and sort of higher weights, right? And there is a place for it. So I want you to understand that menopausal women can train this as well. You need kind of both, okay? Strength training will help you increase more loading into your body, more weight, okay? You can lift more. You do sometimes need to do this because if you don't ever push your body to lift more, then on the higher rep ranges, you're going to stall out in how much you can lift. And this is kind of where you want to create a balance between how much strength training and how much hypertrophy training you're going to have. Think of strength training as raising the ceiling of what you can do. Like You know, for us who are really advanced lifters, like we want higher deadlifts, right? We want to get from I think my highest is 240 for deadlifts, 240 pounds. For me, if I can push that to 245 or 250, the 5 to 10 pounds is like amazing for me, right? Because I want that last bit to pull that weight off the floor. But it's so hard. Past your max ranges, it's really hard, right? You got to train very strategically. For strength training, there is a place for it if you want to push a higher strength and number, right? But yet there has to be a place for hypertrophy training, which is the shaping of your muscle. And you need both, unless you don't care. I mean, maybe some people don't care about the shape. Some people just want to be fit. Like, I get that. But from what most of my clients and people I train, they want to be both strong and they want to see the muscle sculpted on their body, right? This is why I say you need both strength training and hypertrophy training. So this goes back to why I say MTP, menopausal training protocol. And it could be training protocol, but why I say menopausal is because my approach when I teach this part is thinking about your hormones, okay? So if you are somebody listening to this and you're like, I want to understand better how I can integrate hypertrophy training and strength training, put MTP below, okay? Because it is both. You do need both, but it is an advancement, right? It's not like I'm new to lifting, let's go crazy all at once, right? It's like advancing first here, then your next phase is here, then we can start to do mixture, then we can start to do, more and more advanced mixing between strength training and hypertrophy training, okay? So let's talk a little bit about what are some common mistakes, okay? So let's dive over to hypertrophy training. So again, building the shapes of your muscle. So these are common mistakes. Weights are too light. You're not lifting heavy enough. And again, I make this joke about pink dumbbells, but I actually I'm going to post it eventually myself lifting these super heavy pink dumbbells. They were hilarious because I was like, okay, I'm going to take back my whole saying about pink dumbbells because apparently pink dumbbells can be super heavy. It was like 45 pounds or something in each arm. So, my joke about don't lift the pink dumbbells is going to go out the door once I post that. So a lot of people, they lift too light for too many reps. This is a big problem. So when you do like really like high rep ranges and like too high and too light, like circuit, you don't overload the muscle enough. In fact, doing that kind of blunts a lot of your hormone signals. Cortisol rises, it can blunt actually human growth hormone, the proper signals without you realizing it, which is crazy, right? Because a lot of women will lift lots of things, go to classes, do tons of these things without really understanding that could actually blunt your hormone signals, right? And another mistake is for shaping is never training close to failure. So a lot of women just train up to the 10 reps or the 12 reps or whatever it is, and they don't train till they are close to failing. Now, do you have to train to failure every time? No, that is not necessary. However, training close to failure is necessary if you want shaping. Okay. So this is where I encourage a lot of women to make sure those last few reps are hard. They are hard. They should hurt. Yes. Not in the bad way, but you know what I mean. Of course, I don't mean, of course, hurt yourself. What I mean is like those last few reps are super hard, but you can still keep form, right? So those common mistakes often means that if you're not pushing yourself in the right way, you're just always going to stay at this level. You're not going to build more muscle. And this is where I really encourage structured programming, okay? Because if you try to randomly do YouTube here and there with no actual rhyme or reason, it's going to really affect your growth of your muscles, right? I do want to talk about the common mistakes to training strength. So that was common mistakes of why you can't shape your body. But I see the time and I know Kimiko has to go soon. So since I'm talking about strength training and she is the the model here for 66 and being sculpted. I'm going to try to bring her on so that she can get going to her own training. And then I can continue about strength training and some of the common mistakes. If you guys can cheer on Kimiko, I'm going to try to see if I can find her. Kimiko, can you say hello so I can see if I can bring you on and you can come on to chat a little bit. Oh, there she is.
Hey,
There's
I'm
Kimiko.
here.
Say hi to Kimiko, everybody. Beautiful Kimiko. She's a tango dancer, performer, and she's danced everything salsa, all of that. So her and I actually totally get the dance talk, right? We always,
Yes.
yeah, so we
Yeah.
get it. Yes, it's amazing. Yes, Kimiko, I'm excited to have you on here. I'm just going to ask you the questions. So, as we know, you gained within 3 weeks 10.75 inches in your body, lost 3 inches in your belly, and these workouts are kicking your butt.
Yes. Oh my
so,
God.
so my first question to you is, what's the biggest aha moment for you about your fitness, about your body over these past 3 weeks, kind of since starting my program?
Well, I have to tell you, I've been in total shock that I can gain anything in a mere little 3 weeks.
Yes,
Because, I've told you before, I've been training for 40 years. I
40
started in
years.
my 20s and
Yes,
everything took 3 months. It would be 3 months before you'd see the tiniest little change. 3 months, 3 months, 3 months. And then, of
yes,
course, as you get older, it's worse. It's more than
yes.
3 months and worse and worse.
It's
So the
longer and
biggest
longer.
aha is, I've still been training. I go to the gym or work out at home. I bought all this equipment 5 times a week. I work full time. I also do dancing 3 to 4 times a week. I was in preparation for a big show we did on stage and everything before, and I was cramming this all in.
Yeah.
So my biggest aha moment was, well, look at all the training I'm doing. I'm still lifting weights. I'm still 5 times a week, and I'm squeezing that in with dancing and working full time. And not very much was happening. It was so slow.
Yeah.
So the biggest aha was, you are kicking my butt. But oh my God, when you gave me my numbers, I'm like, no, that's not right. You added wrong. It has to be. It's not possible within 3 weeks to see any changes at all like that.
Yeah. 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 I think like you were saying, that you had gotten so used to doing because you've been lifting for so long
Yes.
and you've gotten so used to like doing what you like and yes, you go hard, you push, but it was the same thing. So your body was used to it, right?
Yeah, pretty
That
much.
was,
Every once in a while, I try to add in something or change it up a little. And I was trying to work, each muscle group at least twice a week. And it's like, this is not enough. It must not be enough.
yeah, yeah. And I think this is something I was gonna say it a part of maybe the next point I was gonna make on the strength training or the programming is one of the things Kimiko I saw was that you were doing a lot of different things all at once, all but like following a more structured, not jumping around and actually saying I'm gonna do this for this day. It really makes a big difference because like you were doing like you said you were doing so much, and this is something I think even Kat Wilson will understand because I always say like more is not better.
Hmm.
It's not more, it's more effective, right? And
Yes.
so you are getting more effective workouts for
Hmm.
more effective results, right?
Yes. Yes,
So
absolutely.
yes, yes,
Because your muscles do get too used to. They get used to, oh, let's just do this. It's like, okay, we did that.
yes. Yes, exactly. And even I think I'm just thinking of one of your form checks and I mean you knew I was going to say something about your glute raises, but
Yes.
but this is maybe you can comment on that is like technique is super important, right? It's not just about going heavier. Maybe you can comment on this.
Well, the biggest things I have with technique is also the fact that I have a lot of injuries. And interestingly enough, most of the injuries came from dancing and not
Right,
lifting.
right. Yes, yes.
Um, in tango, there's a lot of twisting, constant twisting and stuff. So I have problems with my shoulders. I've had at one time, both of them have been frozen. I've
Right.
had to go through months and months of physical therapy. I'm having a problem with my right hip. So I realized that I can't necessarily do everything exactly right. Like push-ups, I gave those up a long time ago because my shoulders would be screaming in pain. I couldn't go through sleeping at night because my shoulders would be too painful. So I
Yeah.
started to cheat things because it's like, well, it's better to do some of it halfway than nothing at all. And I figured, okay, well, I'm doing the best I can with working through my injuries. I'm still in physical therapy. I still do a lot of physical therapy type exercises and such.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yes.
yes, but then you had me do videos and I'm going, oh, that's ugly. But I sent it to you anyway because you said,
Yes. Yes, but this is the thing is, right? It's so important to watch yourself, to look at your technique because, or have someone see it because like you, a lot of people, they get used to their way of doing things and their technique is not there. And they're like, "Oh yeah, I'm doing glute raises," or and it's like, "Okay, is it actually effective?" Because for example, you came to me, Kimiko, you're like, yeah, I would really like to grow my legs and I would like to grow my glutes more. And it's like, yet you do a lot of workouts. I've seen you log for me
mhm.
a lot of leg workouts, a lot of glute stuff, yet it's not growing. So I think this is, again, going back to what we were saying about effective workouts and about technique is so crucial too, right? So, and nutrition, of course, nutrition.
Yes.
So let's, we have a lot of people joining. I mean, Kimiko, it must be your friends because like suddenly when you jumped
No.
on, there's like 5 people. I see Photo, Glory, Mecaletangolo, Dennis Kante.
Oh,
Uh,
Dennis. Yeah. He's
yes, these are your friends. These are your friends.
I'm
Cheer on,
shocked.
Kimiko. These are your tango friends? Your tango friends, maybe? I
Yes.
don't know.
Uh-huh.
Yes, amazing, amazing. So let me ask you, maybe can you share one key thing that made the biggest difference for your results that you feel is like why you're like seeing this growth, whether it's nutrition or we just talk about workouts, but what is like one big thing that created this difference in results?
Well, the nutrition definitely. When I started back lifting weights 40 years ago, there was no such thing that I was aware of with macros, especially when it comes to women. They didn't talk about that. Maybe for the guy, male bodybuilders, sure. So nutrition has been a big thing. And I mean, all my meals have been around a meat of some kind. So I always thought, oh, I'm getting plenty of protein. And but I would lose energy all the time. So I thought I got to eat more carbs because protein wasn't satisfying, had to be.
Yeah.
And didn't realize until you started looking at it's like, oh my God, my carbs were like that and my protein was like
Like I
this.
said, her macro distribution was really uneven, really crazy.
Yes.
Yes.
Because I would run out of energy really fast, a lot, very fast, because I was doing so much. It's like, I need energy. I need something to get me going. I have to push through. And so, whether it was dancing or lifting or whatever, I felt like I couldn't make it through to the end. So nutrition has been a tremendously important thing. And I didn't realize things about the timing. And I just know that, when I'm hungry, I got to eat.
Yes, yes, yes. And that's the thing is too, like, and Kimiko, your situation, even though it's slightly unique, but I think a lot of people can relate from maybe this standpoint is like everybody's lifestyle is different, right?
Mhm.
And Kimiko's lifestyle is very, hectic. There's a lot. She's dance rehearsals, dance socials that last 4 or 5 hours because I know.
Yes. Yes.
We laugh about this together, like, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's socials, you know.
Mhm.
But it's like and she's active. She lifts a lot. She trains a lot. So her distribution of macros and the way that she needs to think about protein, carbs, and fat does need to be slightly different and very specific to her and her body and her
Mhm.
body type because she is a carb processor like I told her. That's why she doesn't actually really have the proper combinations. Her body will go, give me carbs now. And so suddenly you see all of her carbs shoot through the roof in her eating, right? And although you might think, Oh, well, she's a carb processor. Can she eat lots of carbs? Well, here's the thing. If she eats tons of carbs, she is spiking her insulin like crazy. She's going to have massive crashes. That's why she said, she was like, I'm having massive crashes. I'm
Mhm.
having cravings. So just because she's a carb processor, it doesn't mean she should be spiking her carbs like that. It all comes down to how you combine your macros, right? And that's what she's learning right now in the process.
Mhm.
And in just kind of starting to tweak that, and the protein amounts and all of that. Wow, your muscles just, I mean, the pictures, I mean, you posted your win post today, but the comparison from 3 weeks ago, your bicep is like from here to here.
Yeah, I was
Your
shocked.
shoulders went from here to here. It's like, Oshone, you met your match here, I'm saying.
Not quite.
Yeah, so, just the amount of inch growth is fast. Also, of course, you have not any fat to cover, so it's just bam, you see it right away. But it really goes to prove that, wow, nutrition makes a huge difference. How you eat, how the macros are split, how much
Mhm.
carb loading you have, where you distribute them is all very crucial, right?
Mhm.
Um,
Yes.
yeah, so maybe last thing before you go, I know you need to do rehearsal really soon.
Yes, I do.
Kat Wilson said that's incredible. She's giving you a thumbs up
Oh,
here. So
thanks.
yes, Kat Wilson is very inspirational too. I know you saw her photos. Yes,
Yes, I
she's
did.
very
Awesome.
inspirational.
Awesome.
Yeah, yeah. So do you have any final things? Just anything you want to share with the ladies? Being 66, and having tried everything and done everything, or word of encouragement to ladies, I guess any last things to share with them?
Well, I can't say enough about your training, Clarice, and your team and your people are wonderful. I'm so very grateful. Yes, I know I've been following you for 4 years, and I've even did the 3 week prior to you having a bio revive, and I got some
Um,
information off of that, and I kind of went,
okay.
So,
Yeah, the
all right,
21
this
day
is good
anti-inflammation.
information,
Yes,
but I mean, um, even though I've been in, I see you have trainers that follow you too. And even
yes,
though I've been doing this for a lot of years, it doesn't mean that you can't learn something new. And
yes,
that especially as you get to be in your menopausal years, everything changes.
yes.
And having a resource like you and your team been the best thing that's ever happened for me because
Mhm.
I still want to be able to do my lifts. We
Yes,
do a lot of lifts in our choreography. I don't
yes,
want that to stop just because I'm 66 and my partner is 67.
right. Yes,
And we're out there doing shows with people that are in their 20s and 30s, and we want to keep going. So
yes.
you have to be able to follow and have a resource and a wonderful team of people like Clarice and her team.
Oh, thank you.
So that's been the best thing. So thank you too.
Yes, yes. No, and I really appreciate that because I know that you have followed me for 4 years, and this is a testament to you of like you're really hungry to grow. You want to keep learning. You want to
Mhm.
keep becoming better. Like you said, you don't want to stop dancing. You want to dance till the last moment. I know because you're a
Yes.
dancer. I'm saying I'm dancing to the last moment if I can
Yes.
too. And
Yes.
so it's like you really value your health. And, it's so easy for a lot of people to get comfortable.
Mhm.
And that's what I'm proud of you for. Is like, yes, like we talked about, your body kind of got used to some things, but because you want to grow, that's why you sought out more help, right?
Mhm.
And,
Yes.
and even though, like I said, like the 4 years is like you learned a lot in my lives,
Hmm. Yes.
but despite the 4 years of following me, like the lives, there's a difference between listening to me live theory wise
Yes.
and actually applying it in an active program where you're like, oh my gosh, this is what she was talking about all those years ago. Yes.
Yes. There's a huge difference between listening and saying, yeah, that makes sense, and then
Yes,
having the tools to be able to apply
yes,
so that
exactly.
you can make the changes that well, for me to be able to make the changes that I want.
Yes,
The older I get, the harder it's been. And
yes,
this is why I need somebody who knows what they're talking about. I need somebody who has studied this
yes,
and can help. And
yes,
obvious it wasn't me by myself. So
yes. Yes, and I appreciate that so much. And you have so many people commenting right now. Debbie says, "You look so jacked. You blew my mind.
Oh,
I've been watching you for a long time. You rock. Wow." And she's already lean right now. As she builds, she's just popping all over the place with just those tweaks in nutrition. And then Ruby says, "Wow, amazing, Kimiko. Get it, girl." Debbie says, "I am a dancer too, 67, and my partner is 70. Debbie is a ballroom dancer,
yep.
and she's
Awesome.
back training now. So yes, so it's awesome. You guys are inspiring all the ladies on here, right? It doesn't matter your age. You can keep dancing, keep working out.
Mhm.
Yeah. And then Oshami says there is knowledge and then applied knowledge.
Yes.
Uh, yes,
Yes.
yes. So everyone listening, if you're listening, don't be an info beast. It's not just about information on this live, it's applied knowledge. So if you agree with that and it's like a declaration to yourself, applied knowledge, put applied knowledge below. It's you need to apply, not just listen. Go like, what is she actually saying? How do I implement this change in my everyday, right? And
Mhm.
sometimes, just like Kimiko said, sometimes you don't know where the gap is yourself. You
Mhm.
kind of need someone to dig into it. And this is actually a perfect time to bring up Ruby, because Ruby, the way she lives her life is very chaotic, but she doesn't know what's happening in different parts until I can analyze what's going on and where we need to fix things. Because remember, everything has to come down to hormones. You have to look at it for Kimiko, the hormone situation is the way she ate, right? It was spiking her insulin,
Yeah.
crashing. She
Mhm.
didn't have enough proteins that allow for HGH and IGF-1s to even start a process in there. Like it's like she didn't have the right signals in place, or sufficient. You had little, but not sufficient signals, right?
Yes.
So yeah, so thank you, Kimiko. I know it's you have to go train now
No,
and
thank you.
practice your tango rehearsal. So everyone say thank you to Kimiko for coming on, and thank you
Thank
for
you
the
all very
inspiration.
much.
Yes, thank
Let's
you.
go.
Oh, there's her big flex there. I love
Thank
it.
you again.
Thank you, Kamiko.
Thank
Yes,
you. Bye.
bye. Awesome. Wasn't she amazing? She is so amazing, so inspirational, at 66. So awesome. Thank you, Kamiko. Give her lots of heart, hit the heart button and give her lots of hearts, okay? Okay, so let's dive back, because I mean, actually, from her talk, one thing, like I said, is like it reinforces a couple things. The way your nutrition is so crucial. So again, if you want to learn macros, put macros below. And two, if you want to understand more of the MTP protocol, like I mentioned, put MTP, because this is training protocol. It's not just I go workout to workout. It's about effective workouts, just like she talked about. So what we're going to talk about here is mistakes around strength training. That was where we left off, right? So common mistakes. Okay, so remember, hypertrophy training and strength training are two separate things. So common mistakes that you make, that from maybe in strength training that may be preventing your gains, is avoiding heavy weights. So if you avoid heavy weights entirely, you're gonna plateau and you're never gonna hit those neurons firing those new fibers. Okay, so you want to make sure that you lift heavy enough. Now, like I said, if you're not even consistent yet, the first thing is to get you consistent on a routine. Then you can slowly build the strength and heavier weights, right? Another thing about common mistakes with strength training is going heavy too often. Okay, so the opposite. So if you go heavy too often without adequate rest, you are going to create burnout and cortisol spiking in your system. So you will risk injury and all of that. So we want to create this, proper balance between, again, hypertrophy training and strength training, and not overdoing it, not always going in and like trying to do super heavy. Okay, and then of course, just like we were saying with Kimiko, the form is super important. Okay, so if you are lifting heavier and heavier, but your form is not staying intact, which was exactly sort of the situation with Kimiko on the glute hip thrust, it is no point that you're going heavier. The form is now being compromised, right? So you want to make sure that your form technique is good enough that you can do it at a heavy enough load above what you regularly can do. And that will take consistency in training and proper technical coaching. So this is why for a lot of my clients, in particularly Muscle Accelerator, so you want to think of it like this, okay? Strength training is like your engine upgrade, okay? Like more horsepower. Hypertrophy training is the body shaping, so building the curves. So you need both the engine upgrade, like engine of that bigger engine I talked about. You want strength work and hypertrophy training. So put below, which one do you feel you need a little bit more of right now? Put below if you feel like you need more strength training or you need more hypertrophy training. And if that's too big of a word, you could just say shaping. When you are doing lifting and MTP protocol, you need to ensure that the right hormone signals are sent out in your body, okay? The right signals. So in terms of the right signals that are sent out in your body, you have to ensure that you have enough compound movements in your lifts. The compound movements like squats, deadlifts, those types of things that recruit a lot of muscle fibers. This is very important to stimulate the right hormones. I mentioned before, you are facing anabolic resistance as you age. So your goal is I want to have as much good hormones for building muscle. I want growth hormone, I want insulin growth factor. So one of the things is ensuring you have lots of good compound lifts in there, and you want to have a little bit of HIIT training like I mentioned before. So in order to have the highest boost of HGH, insulin growth factor, you want to have between 80 to 90% VO2 max, okay? So you want to be working at that level, and how do you know? Between 8 to 9 difficulty when you are in the HIIT training. 80 to 90% VO2 max has been shown to boost the highest level of human growth hormone and insulin growth factor, okay? So in terms of kind of how this will work with the hormones, okay? So growth hormone, okay, is first released in the pituitary gland, and it is released in pulses and the most during your sleep, so that's why sleep is important. It's a signaling molecule that will signal down to the liver, and the liver is where it will actually signal insulin growth factor to be released. So you want to think of the first signal you need is the growth hormone, which will then connect it to insulin growth factor. The insulin growth factor that is released from the liver cells is super important because insulin growth factor, this is what we call the growth amplifier, okay? The growth amplifier is where all the things that you want in your building muscle to happen, okay? So these are the things that IGF-1 will do. This is why I said even though you have estrogen dropping, you want to boost this particular hormone. So IGF-1, if you are taking notes, put this down, is that it will help you with muscle protein synthesis. It activates the mTOR pathway. It will help you have better satellite cell activity, which we talked about, satellite cell donating those nuclei to grow more muscle. It will help you have better collagen production, supporting tendons and ligaments. It will help you have better fat metabolism, which is working with increasing fat breakdown. So get this, right? If you have higher GH and IGF-1, you not only build more muscle, you actually burn more fat because it increases fat metabolism. And of course, it supports bone health. It stimulates bone formation and density of the fibers and maintenance, right? So our density of the bones. So IGF-1 is an extremely important hormone. And that's kind of why I mentioned earlier that in order to stimulate GH and IGF-1 pathways for better body recomposition in your body, you need the right training protocols. You need to have a program that emphasizes these, not only these compound moves, but the differences between these lifts and, you know, a little bit of HIIT, a little bit of LIT, which is low intensity interval training. You have to prioritize different types of rest and recovery. There's a lot of different things you have to consider in the training protocol to give yourself the best chance at building muscle. This is not something to easily gloss over, because a lot of people have trouble building muscle as they age, no matter how hard they work out. And it's yes, your nutrition needs to be on par, like I said before, but this part a lot of people miss. They miss the nuance things that need to happen in your training to boost the maximum muscle development, which is boosting GH and ultimately insulin growth factor. Think of insulin growth factor being the hormone that kind of replaces estrogen. Your estrogen is gone. So we need to be super diligent at boosting all the other hormones that are going to help you live longer, that is going to help you have more muscle, that is going to help you drop fat. And like I said, this is coming down to MTP protocol. If you enjoyed learning anything here, please put it below. It really helps me. I know probably most people tell me they're doing things, cooking, washing dishes as they listen to me, driving, probably Teresa, she had. But if you can type in there, I really appreciate it. You know, if you are enjoying it, what are you learning? Are there something new that you're like, wow, I never knew this. I never knew about GH or insulin growth factor or these aspects to train at 80 to 90% VO2 max. Like, share with me what you are taking away. The last part here is just talking about recovery, because this is the part that I feel like is not talked about enough. So I just want to give it a moment as the last point, okay? Because as you and I know, everything before, so if I had to build this like structure from the bottom up, I'd honestly go inflammation, number one. You need to deal with this. Then number two, I would say like nutrition, like macros, macro combinations, where you put your macros, kind of like what Kimiko said. Then number three is your specific numbers of macros and more dialed in macros. And three, and kind of on the same level, is also training, starting to train properly, right? And then obviously dialing the workout, the training as the next thing. And then the final thing is rest and recovery and how you support that growth. Okay, so I want to take that final, I know it's been a long live, I want to take the final bit to talk about this. So 3 areas of rest and recovery. Okay, in terms of recovery, we want number one, sleep. Okay, deep sleep is the highest peak of growth hormone. This is where repair and fat metabolism happens. So you have to know, there's a saying, and write this down, because I heard this and I thought it was brilliant. Your growth in muscle does not come in reps. It comes in rest. Yes, you like that? I like it. Write it down. Your growth in muscles does not come in reps. It comes in rest. Okay, so this is so crucial. It's something that I teach so many of my women, like Ruby, you, to rest more, to take your magnesium bath, to calm down. Yes, your greatest spike in growth hormone will happen in sleep and in the slow waves of your deep sleep. And this is where you will repair and create greater fat metabolism. You want to aim for between 7 to 9 hours of sleep, a consistent schedule. You could even aim for 6, because like some people need less, but as long as you feel fully rested, right? So the second thing in rest and recovery is stress management. Yes? Cortisol control. Cortisol control. Yes? Honestly, this has been the biggest thing I've seen so many of the women is stressed out, running around, not giving themselves proper chance to calm their system down. Chronic cortisol impairs leptin, muscle breakdown, and creates more fat gain. And so you want to have tools, you know, like there's like a box breathing method I've talked about before, you know, like I said, maybe taking a magnesium bath. There's different things, there's different protocols. So a lot of times having these protocols in there is very helpful, even though food, nutrition, and workouts so important. But if these protocols are not like tended to for cortisol control, stress management, it will derail your entire process, right? So that's number two. And number three is supplements, okay? So last live, I talked about the menopausal stack. So again, I'm not going to go into all the details, but like it's basically that understanding that in menopause, you need to stack certain supplements to get the best outcome. Why? Because of what's happening in your body with estrogen declining, testosterone dropping, thyroid becoming more resistant, all of this type of stuff. Yes, there could be a place for creatine, but again, that's something I would like to discuss more with the individual. But creatine can be a very, very good potential, and there's other things too, like understanding, for example, if you are going to take collagen is only really effective if you take it with vitamin C because of the hydroxylation process. There's a breakdown process, proline, lysine kind of integrating with the collagen and being absorbed into the system. So why I bring this up is because if you are very serious about your health, but you don't, take supplements or you don't know how to combine it, this is where I would really encourage you to get some guidance on the menopausal stack on what you could do. With some of my current clients already giving you some suggestions of what you could take to work with your cortisol, all of that kind of stuff. But there's, more behind this. So it's like understanding vitamin D works better with vitamin K, different things like that. That's why I say the menopausal stack, because as you age, it's not just taking more stuff, it's also understanding, kind of like MTP, right? The combination of it. What combination of supplementation creates the best boost in muscle building, in hormone balance for your body so that you can achieve the best body composition, right? So yes, put that below if you feel like you want to learn more about the menopausal stack, okay? And then of course, the last thing I'll say is everything has to work together as one system. The ultimate kind of maybe the issue that a lot of menopausal women face is they tend to create disjointed methodologies. So I'm going to go do that. So they do these little things, but they're all scattered, and there's no system or rhyme and reason to how that is kind of coming together. And this was actually through some of the research I've done that it really talked about for menopausal women. One of your keys to success is systems, is making sure everything comes together in a holistic system. This will ensure your best results for longevity, for anti-aging, reversing aging like Phyllis, right? For building muscle and dropping fat. So if you're listening to this and you're like, I don't know, like I kind of jump around, I do a little bit of this, I listen to this live, then I listen to this doctor, then I listen to Clarice, and then you're all over the place, yet you don't really see the consistent results you want, then that is a signal that maybe you need to put a system in it. The system is really necessary for menopausal women, okay? I have different systems, but they all connect, okay? So there's the DNA, Fierce Woman methodology. There is the 4 pillars that I talk about on my consult. And there is obviously the MTP protocol that I mentioned about training systems. And now I'm mentioning about menopausal stack, which is about supplementation, right? So if you want to learn more of that, put that below. And just to quickly wrap up, please, if you can, leave a comment in the comment section, hit the heart button, hit the arrow button, the airplane button. If you can even share this, I really appreciate it because it helps me reach more women and help more people. And obviously I spend a lot of time reading a ton of research paper, which I love, but help really putting together things that really add a lot of value to you on here. Obviously, these are not short lives. You can come back and watch it, and I hope this adds value to all of you. So sending you all lots of love, and thank you for joining me, and have a great night. Thanks for tuning in to the Fierce and Fit Mentor podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to hit the follow button on Spotify, subscribe on YouTube, or wherever you're listening so you never miss an episode. If something in this episode resonated with you, please leave a review or share it with a friend who'd love it too. Your support means the world and helps us reach more amazing women like you. Until next time, stay fierce, stay fit, and let's keep building your most powerful self.